Welcome back, travelers, or should I say welcome to class, students. We are going to be talking about Strixhaven, which is a fantastic new set. Every Tuesday and Thursday from this point, you're going to be seeing episodes about Strixhaven. So, first thing we're going to talk about is basically the founding dragons, the origins and the universe.
Legendary lore! You forgot to do it.
Thank you, Joy. I appreciate that. That was a great interruption. Out of all your interruptions, I'm glad you did it.
Don't worry, they'll get worse and you'll regret them.
Okay, so planes are created based off of mana, right? And so, like, if you look at Alara, the reason it was developed the way it was because it was split off from two different forms of mana. So the planes, the mini planes, wound up developing differently from normal planes. If you look at a place like Ravnica, the ley lines were like woven into the foundation of their law, which is what made it so strong and binding. If you look at, well, Strixhaven had things, its mana, and it was all swirly and stuff, right? And they wound up having 5 little knots. So you can think of it as like a red ley line and a white ley line were converging, and they kind of tied up into a little snarl kind of deal. And
so their mana is naturally 2-color, basically.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, that's cool.
Sort of, because obviously they can have monocolored spells.
It's like the way you described Ravnica is, okay, here's all these different ley lines. A lot of people just grab 2 of them and combine them.
Yeah.
Glorious, just like, oh, hey, look at that and that. That would be awesome for torturing people. I mean, keeping the law.
So, in the magic lore, there's a thing called elder dragons. Elder dragons are basically creation dragons. They're dragons that were born from nothing. They were not hatched. They weren't they were just born from the ether. So, like in the case of Nicol Bolas and Ugin, they were birthed from the dragon, which is like it's not an Eldrazi, but it's an extraplanar being that is the original dragon upon which all other dragons are split from.
Is the dragon still around?
The dragon is probably still floating around, but this is where things get interesting, because those were the original 5 elder dragons, right? The Arcades, Victus Asmadi, Chromium, and Nicol Bolas, of course, and Palladia Mors. All of them were the original elder dragons, and they were big. They were from the legend set and everything, right? Ugin was Nicol Bolas' twin brother that split off from him, and there's a whole other story about that. If anyone's interested in hearing more about Ugin, I would be more than happy to explode all over the place about Ugin. But right now, we're going to talk a little bit about Ugin some more, because he created the dragons on Tarkir. He created these dragon tempests that were basically acted like these snarls, and they birthed these massive dragons: the Dramoka, Atarka, Calagan, Silumgar, and the blue-white one that no one cares about, Ojatai. That's the one. Those 5 were the elder dragons of Tarkir, and their ally color. I was very interested in it because there's colorless spells in this set, and there's a colorless avatar thing. Then you have 5 elder dragons, and they're enemy colored, and they're born from these maelstroms. And I'm thinking, well, it's got to be Ugin, right? Like, there's going to be a thing about Ugin in here somewhere. There's got to be something, because why else would there just be colorless stuff everywhere? It's not Eldrazi. Yeah, the avatar kind of looks like an Eldrazi. There's floating rocks everywhere, but probably not Eldrazi, because that'd be too.
Zada's coming around eating the floating rocks.
There's no mention of Ugin in the official storyline so far. Maybe after the release of this episode, there's going to be some kind of like special thing where it's like, and the origin of species of the elder dragons or something. I was
going to say, it's a little too soon to write off Ugin, because they said that the dragons have been there since the beginning of the plane, correct?
Yes.
What if Ugin just swooped in, just like, oh hey, a plane's opening, here's dragons, bye!
Now, here's what's cool about this though, because the elder dragons were these elder dragons, the enemy colored ones, the ones that are Lorehold, Witherbloom, all of them. They were basically born with the mastery over these different elements, their respective colors. And it wasn't until they ruled this plane, and eventually sentient life started to actually, sapient life, I guess, started to actually use this magic, and it made them upset. What they were originally going to do is basically just wipe the place out, but then they realized, well, we need to we need to like cultivate this. Well, I'll read it specifically. It says right here. The dragons were at first angered, mortals would try to harness wild forces of magic. They came to realize that only through disciplined study would magic be in safe hands. And so that's why centuries, about 700 years ago, they created Strixhaven. What's important to note here is the difference in response the two different dragons had. What I mean by that is the two different, you have the Tarkiran dragons, and their response was subjugate and devour the humans that were trying to use magic. So it's just a really cool dichotomy between these two different sets of elder dragons and their responses. Because
it's basically like they're trying to use our magic to kill them. Wait, what if they can use it well? Not without teaching.
Yeah, and pretty much.
Oh.
And so at first, these dragons were the heads of the schools. You could think of them as the original deans. But they eventually were like, you know what? We're done. We're good. We've set up a nice enough playing field. You guys can take it from here. And so each dragon, which you have Shadrix, who founded the Silverquill, Beledros, who founded Witherbloom, Tanazir, also referred to by us as Tanazir, is Tenzin, Quandrix, Galazeth Prismari, and Velomachus Lorehold. The 5 dragons, now basically they're still alive, but they don't really care about the school. They kind of just, they're the people who make donations to your college so that they can have a new gold dome on the top of their building. That's them.
Also, it should be noted, the plane is called Arcavios.
Yes, Arcavios isn't in the plane. That is a very good thing to point out. I would
skip that part. Just like he's skipping around. He's excited. I'll throw this in somewhere.
I love this plane. Like, out of every plane, this is the plane I would want to live on. We'll get more into the individual colleges in the next 5 episodes. But first, I want to just talk about the Vastlands, which is basically where, like, it's the wildlands. It's the wild areas. People live in those areas that aren't essentially associated with Strixhaven. But yeah, Star Arches and the Archaics. These are obviously seeded for a future return.
Wait, aren't Star Arches those things in my potatoes?
Close, those are Starches. Star Arches, or Star Arcs, I guess, if that'll make you a bit better. That's the Tony. Star Arches are basically these floating structures that no one knows what they're like really meant for. They're kind of just these, I guess you could say, nexi for mana. Some of them have things growing on them. Some of them are super clean, and there's just things that are going to be useful in the future. We've already talked about.
Nobody knows what they're for. You're not saying they can't be in my potatoes.
Yeah, it's a good source of iron probably. And of course, we're going to talk about the Auric. The Auric are a group basically of magic terrorists that you'll get to learn more about them in the storyline in the coming month. The last few bits for this episode is we're going to talk about 2 characters who don't, 3 characters that don't actually fit into the other 5 schools, which would be Mavinda, who is the student's advocate. She's basically just a school counselor, and she's a giant owl. Her entire point is that she's able to counsel people, and if she has magic that allows her to cause people to have debilitating emotional panic attacks, basically, as you felt like it, or just make them really sad. She's an emotion mage, so she's the perfect psychiatrist, basically.
She's Mantis if Mantis was an owl, and smarter.
Yeah. And then, of course, you have Cody, the vociferous Codex, who's basically just a sentient book who has the personality of Zazu from Lion King. That's pretty much all there is to him. So, but... And then, of course, we have Mila. Mila is the wolfy companion to Luca. You will get to learn more about him in the storyline as well. Jadzi is currently not connected to any of the schools, but she is she's basically just like she's the Gandalf. She is the Gandalf of this world. She's the great and powerful wizard kind of thing.
Wait, the white or the gray?
The blue and green. But that's pretty much it.
Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little intro to Strixhaven. It's going to be amazing. We're going to explore the plane of Arcavios, the land of Strixhaven, and everything there is to it. So stay tuned. Don't miss it in a couple days.
You are dismissed.